Chapter 9. "What you doing here, T?" Warren shouted, his voice a mix of surprise and concern. "What happened to your hand?" Tyray couldn't answer. Waves of emotion crashed through his chest. The humiliation he faced at Bluford, the loneliness he felt at home, the worry since he spoke to Londell, the sadness that overtook him in the dark alley, the relief of seeing Warren's face. It overwhelmed him, making it impossible to speak. He crossed the room in silence and embraced his brother. "It's okay, bro," Warren said, slapping his back several times. "It's okay." "Man, why'd you stop writing to me, huh?" Tyray asked, his head buried in his brother's chest, his eyes stinging with tears. "I was scared." "I'm sorry," Warren said gently, letting him go. His face was fuller than Tyray remembered, and he looked older. A jagged scar extended just above his right eyebrow. It had once been a deep gash, Tyray could see, but the wound was mostly healed now. "You okay?" Tyray asked, eyeing the scar. "What happened?" "Nothing," Warren said, shaking his head as if the topic annoyed him. "Just a scratch, that's all. Dad send you to check up on me?" "No, he don't even know I'm here," Tyray admitted, explaining how he snuck out to the prison to visit him. "Why'd you do that? You know he's going to find out, and then it's going to be trouble for you." "It can't get much worse," Tyray grumbled. "You still didn't answer me. How come you never wrote back?" Warren shook his head wearily. "Look, it wasn't about you, okay? I know Mom and Dad read what I write you, and I'm tired of lying to everybody. That's what got me into this mess, and I can't do it no more. If people can't handle the truth, then I got nothing to say to them. Not even Mom, and especially not Dad. I got no time for him." "What you mean? I never asked you to lie about nothing." "Look, T, just drop it, all right? Tell me what's going on at home and school. Give me something else to think about besides this place." "No, you can't shut me out like that. I've been worried about you and thinking the worst. I see that scar on your face. What's going on? For real, what's up?" Warren rubbed his head and sighed heavily. "You ain't a kid no more, so I guess I can tell you. But this just between you and me, you hear?" Tyray nodded, staring into his brother's unblinking eyes. "I'm a father." "What?" Tyray felt as if the world suddenly shifted and pitched forward. "Me and Chantel, remember?" Tyray recalled the visitor list and Mom's old complaints about Warren spending too much time with her. It made sense, and yet it felt wrong, too. Tyray remembered Warren doing homework at the kitchen table or playing Xbox in front of the TV before Dad came home. He couldn't imagine him being a parent. Other people had kids, but not his brother. Not now, not like this. "You serious?" Warren nodded. "When I found out she was pregnant, I freaked. There ain't no way I was going to tell Dad. I was still in school. I was supposed to be looking at colleges. How was I going to take care of a kid? So I started thinking about getting money. That's when I did the dumbest thing of my life. I listened to this dude Bones and hit that store," he whispered. The room seemed to lurch again. "Bones gave you the idea?" Tyray felt as if the top of his head was about to explode. "You're the only one in our family that knows this, T. Check this out." Warren held out a tiny worn photograph smaller than his old iPod. A smiling baby girl with tiny pink beads in her hair looked out from it. She had Warren's eyes. "That's Jada, your niece. She's almost a year old now. She's why I lift weights, why I read books, why I got my GED. I'm hoping to do right for her once I get out of here. I got 2 years left." 2 years. A niece. Tyray took a deep breath. "Visiting hours end in 30 minutes, a guard announced. "I know Dad can't handle it. If I have to hear another lecture on responsibility, I'ma scream. Yeah, I messed up, but I'm trying to make it right. I'm a tutor in here, Tyray. Some guys don't even know how to read, and I'm teaching them. They call me Prof because I'm their professor. If I keep it up, I might get out 6 months early for good behavior. So I'm trying. It ain't perfect, but it's all I got right now besides her." He looked at the tiny picture in his hands. Sorry I hid all this for so long, but you understand, right? Tyray nodded, dizzy with what he had learned. It all made sense. Warren's secrecy, his fight with Dad, Bones' apology. The skinny man had led Warren into trouble. Maybe he had sold him his gun, too. No wonder Bones said you wouldn't want to see him, he mumbled, anger swelling in his chest. Bones? What you doing talking to him? Tyray took a deep breath. There was no reason to lie. He brought me here. What? He's here? Now? Warren hissed. Boy, are you crazy? A guard in the corner of the room craned his neck toward them. Is there a problem, Mr. Hobbs? No, Warren said, cradling the tiny picture in his hands. Ain't no problems. He's dying, Tyray explained. Told me to tell you he's sorry, but them words ain't good enough if you ask me. Warren winced at the words and leaned forward in his chair. Man, tell me what's been going on with you, T, he said, looking at Tyray's cast. Tell me everything. Tyray's head pounded. He knew Warren had no idea what happened at school with Darryl. He wanted to tell him the truth, but he couldn't say the words. I wanted to shoot myself. Sometimes I still wish I did. They were locked tight in his throat. Instead, Tyray told the version he had told his parents, careful to keep his voice low when he mentioned the gun and Bones. Then he explained what Londell said and what made him rush to Cliffside. Warren clenched his teeth and shook his head as if what he heard pained him. Boy, are you trying to end up in here? 'Cause that's what's going to happen if you keep this up. And believe me, you don't want to be in this place. There are things that happen in here. I can't even talk about it. Warren's voice broke up. I wish I was out there to help you, bro. But you gotta listen to me. I don't care what Bones says. Stay away from him. Maybe I'd never be here if it weren't for him. I don't know. As for Londell, he's dangerous. He gave me this, Warren said, pointing to the scar over his eye. What? Tyray couldn't believe it. So it was true. Londell hadn't lied. He was here and saw me teaching people. Said I was wasting my time. When I told him about Jada, he said the only way I could afford to raise her was to work for him. I guess I acted like Dad then, Warren admitted, smiling bitterly. I couldn't take it. My baby girl deserves better than a daddy who served time and sells drugs for Londell James. I lost it and shoved him. Another mistake. Good thing a few guys got my back or it would have been even worse for me. You stay away from him. Dude's father was murdered a few years ago. He's scary. You cross him and he'll take you down in a heartbeat. His brother robbed me twice, Tyray grumbled, remembering his fight with Jupiter and how Londell had threatened him. They're hanging out all the time near Union Street. I seen him out there this morning. 10 minutes, announced the guard, cutting Tyray off. Warren leaned forward, his hands near his chest as if he was about to pass an invisible basketball. Listen, T, I'ma break this down for you quick. You're an endangered species. Coming from our neighborhood, we got a better chance ending up in jail than going to college. An old iPod don't matter. $40 ain't nothing. Whoever thinks that stuff is important ain't spent time in here. A week behind bars and they'd trade it all back to be on the outside again, you understand? Tyray nodded as Warren continued. Get your education. Build yourself up so you never have to see a place like this. Be the one who invents the next iPod, not the one who spends all your money on it. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your niece who don't have her daddy because he messed up when he was standing where you are right now. Or do it for me, your brother who's failing his family because he's locked up in the joint. Warren's voice shook with sadness, anger, and regret. Tyray knew those feelings. They reminded him of his night in the alley. You ain't failing, Tyray said, trying to think of something to comfort him. You helping me, right? Just then, Tyray realized he wanted to tell his brother everything that happened with Darryl. He knew, looking in Warren's eyes, that his brother would listen and maybe even understand. But before he could say another word, the guard approached. Time to wrap it up, everyone, he announced. Tavon cried out in the distance. Listen to me, T. You still got a chance. You're still in school. Promise me you're going to make it count. Warren urged, his eyes almost desperate. Promise. The word struck Tyray, the same word Lark used, the same one emblazoned on his cast. For a second, he couldn't speak. That's it. Let's move, the guard barked, tapping Warren on the shoulder. Warren stood up, and Tyray hugged him again. For several seconds it was quiet, and Tyray wished he could just bring his brother home with him. But instead, he had to let him go. He handed him Mom's letter and watched as the guards led him away. I miss you, bro, Warren added as he turned down the corridor. Me too, Tyray said, watching him disappear behind a heavy steel door. Me too. Tyray confronted Bones on the bus home. So you sold a gun to my brother and told him to go rob a store? Bones nodded. I told you I was sorry, he said, looking skinnier than ever. He's a father now and can't raise his baby girl 'cause of you, Tyray fumed. Bones shrugged his shoulders wearily. He ain't the only one not coming home 'cause of me, he said, almost in a whisper. Tyray wanted to hit him. He pictured his fist slamming into the frail man's bony face. As sick as he was, Bones would be no match for him. And yet the thought made Tyray feel dirty inside. Man, I don't want to talk to you again. Just stay away from me, okay? Bones nodded, his eyes bloodshot and glassy. He was silent the entire ride home. Sunday night, Tyray stared at the ceiling of his bedroom, the news of the day swirling like a storm in his head. He still couldn't believe what he had learned. Warren was a father. He was an uncle. His parents didn't know. Tyray felt as if he were lying to their faces each time he saw them, and yet he was angry too. Maybe if Dad weren't so strict, Warren could have told them the truth. Maybe he wouldn't have felt so desperate and done something so stupid. Maybe he never would have ended up in jail. Tyray knew he was the same way, alone and desperate. That's what led him to make his mistakes too. Seeing Bones, stealing money, getting a gun. How's that working for you? Mr. Mitchell's question mocked him. He knew the answer just as Warren knew it as he sat month after month in prison. It wasn't working. Not at all. Knock, knock. The sound against the door startled him. You awake? It was Mom's voice. Tyray got up and opened the door. He peered back into the living room and saw Dad asleep on the couch. His mother stepped into the room and gently closed the door. So did you go? Did you see him? She asked. The question irritated him. It was another secret he was supposed to keep. Another moment where he couldn't tell the truth. He was getting sick of it. Yeah, I saw him, he said, sitting down on his mattress and crossing his arms. The bitterness he felt inside was spreading like a rash. Well, how is he? He's locked up, Mom. What do you want me to say? Tyray grumbled, careful to keep his promise to Warren. His mother stepped closer. That's it? Did you talk to him about the argument with your father and why he won't see us? We didn't have a lot of time, Mom, Tyray replied, hating that he had to lie. He's working, teaching people to read and stuff, and he looked good, like he's been hitting the weights. His mother looked confused, as if she had expected something else, something more. Well, what did he say to you? Why hasn't he written back? She demanded, her voice rising in frustration. You and Dad shouldn't have pushed him away. If you didn't, maybe it wouldn't be this way. What way? What did he tell you? You're a grandma now, Mom. The words were on the tip of his tongue, but like so many others, he couldn't say them. You should go visit him, he replied. Ask him yourself, okay? I don't want to be in the middle, Tyray blurted. He turned away from her and stared at his wall. He could see Lark's writing on his cast and wanted to scratch it off. Tyray, are you okay? Did he say something that upset you? Mom asked. Just talk to him, Mom, no matter what Dad says. He kept his back to her and listened as she walked out and shut the door. In the quiet darkness, he recalled what his brother had told him. Warren's final words echoed like a sad song in his mind, one he could not shake. You're an endangered species. Get your education. Do it for me. Mr. Mitchell had practically said the same thing. In his own way, Bones said it too. Could they all be wrong? They acted as if it was so simple, as if he could just flip a switch and all his problems would go away, and he would suddenly be a perfect student. Who were they kidding? If it were so easy, why was Bones on the street? Why was Warren in jail? He felt his cast in the dark. Inside, he was supposed to be healing, and yet everything outside felt as if it was coming apart. Still, Warren's words stuck with him. You're still in school. Promise me you're going to make it count. Hours later, still unable to sleep, Tyray turned on his light, grabbed his copy of Lord of the Flies, and flipped it open.